Yes, I'll just say that this is page 436 of Mehera-Meher, and I believe the year is 1950, but we'll see if we get it. Go ahead, Rosalie.
Before the new life, Mani rarely cooked or was involved in preparation of meals, but now she assisted Mara. Mani was always near the fire. I would direct her. Baba had told me not to go next near the fire to cook. So I told Mani how much to put in, how many potatoes to be cut for so many people, and so on. Baba ate with the Mandali sometimes, but usually with us. By 10:10 or 10:30, the food would go to the men. We gave Baba pan every day. He didn't purchase it ready made. We didn't purchase it ready made, but bought the Banarsi pan leaves and made it at home, placing a few leaves together on top of each other. Goher knew doctoring, not cooking, but she too helped with the chores. Along with Meru, I ground masalas. Goher brought the water, and Meru washed Baba's clothes. We were not to read anything during the new life. Newspapers came to wrap up things or to start the fire with. But Baba's trick was to have Czechoslovakian newspapers brought. We couldn't understand the language, so it was all right. One day, Baba came and told us that Kaka would come and cook potato patties for us. We stayed in the house part while Kaka came to our kitchen and prepared them. We always made curry and rice or dal and rice. So it was nice to have an extra dish that day. Baba loved them, and Kaka was proud that Baba relished them. And I have a sidebar. It says, coincidentally, Czechoslovakian immigrants settled in Prague, Oklahoma, the town near where Baba would have his first automobile accident in 1952. Mara, however, recalled the newspapers being in German. Not long afterwards, Mani was making a stew for the evening meal. It had not turned out well, and nothing she added made it right. Baba came along and asked what she was preparing. She told him, but explained that it was not tasty. Baba sampled it and asked for some spice. He added just a pinch, along with the leftover potato patties, mashed it, and stirred it over the fire. When Mani tasted it, she said that she had never tasted anything so delicious. The men, too, sent word later that it was the best stew ever. Baba christened it Bhagawan stew, God's stew. Every day, the men companions filled a huge metal bathtub that Baba had sent to the women's kitchen to store water for their household needs. It had a cock It had a cock at the bottom,
I suspect that's a means
or
it's a faucet.
oh, it had a cock at the bottom to draw water for washing rice, dal, and vegetables. One day, Nilu asked Alaba to help lift some heavy burdens of water from the well to fill the tub, but Alaba was not very forthcoming. Mani overheard them arguing and was tickled at how polite Nilu was trying to be as he became more and more irritated. She mimicked the two companions for Baba and the other women, and all enjoyed her impersonation. The sidebar says the bathtub had come with the rest of their luggage from Ahmednagar and was left in Belgaum when they departed. On 25th October, Baba called together the men companions to finalize their duties and give them the opportunity to voice any difficulties they were having. Adi Sr. flared up and said that he had his doubts about Baba's real motives and intentions. Baba gave them one last chance to reconsider their decisions about accompanying him. You cannot continue to have such moods in this life, which later on might prove millions of times more difficult and trying than what it is today. God knows, yesterday I told even Mehera for the last time that she, at least of all people, should keep happy and cheerful under the most extreme and trying circumstances. After the meeting, Baba made some concessions to the men's complaints by giving them extra blankets. 7 also got white sheets to protect themselves from the mosquitoes. But later, Baba had sheets given to all, saying in the new life, every man is to be treated equally. No thought of small or great is to be entertained. Don, however, received an actual mosquito net, and Baba observed, not to make a hard life harder, he has been shown some consideration, which in truth is neither a concession nor partiality. Presumably, the same could be said about the small considerations that Baba allowed the women to have, such as their mosquito nets and gumboots, which were not on the list of articles to be taken in the new life. Although Baba had said repeatedly that he was now their companion rather than a master, the women's relationship with him did not change. Baba was still just Baba to them. Nehru stated, "We never changed our attitude towards Baba." Erich noted that this was not really necessary. As Baba said, quote, whatever be your feelings in your heart, that's your own personal outlook. But outwardly, you must take me as your companion and try to follow my orders as the head of the group without seeking any personal spiritual or material rewards. To be going on the new life was a serious, intense time, Mehera continued. One had to adhere strictly to what Baba wanted, never to get excited or angry, never to hurt anyone, to help Baba so his mood would not be upset. But once we started, Baba's mood lightened. To Mani, the intensity of the new life was both serious and frightening almost, she explained. It is as if one is in the ocean rowing and looks and realizes how vast it is. Once I had the experience of realizing the depths of the new life. I was so awed by it. Again, it was like being near the ocean and being able to feel it. It was so tremendous. I've never sung the New Life song since then, composed by Ghani. I couldn't. It scared me. Baba said over and over again that he was our companion now. But during the New Life, he was more God than ever. Every evening, Baba came to the women's quarters to relax. Often he played the dholak drum, as Mehera recounted. We would sit and listen, entranced by the beautiful rhythm and sound, watching Baba's slender, graceful fingers as he played, and the expression of intense absorption in his eyes, as though he were one with the music. Since there was no furniture in their house, they sat on the floor with Baba leaning against a pillow. Baba always liked to talk, Mehera said, or for us to tell him stories or sing a song. Once, Baba asked Mehera to tell an amusing story. And she said, I don't know any amusing stories, but I read a story I can tell you. She could only tell half of it, as that was all she could remember. But Mehera had read the same story, so she finished for her. Mani often told Baba jokes or a funny story. And once when Baba asked her to sing, she sang a short song. But what is best remembered of the nightly entertainment at Belgaum was that Goher learned a song that Mani taught her and sang it for Baba. After Mani's work in the kitchen, she urged Goher, come on, now you must learn this song and sing it for Baba. It is very short and easy. Teach it to the others, Goher pleaded. I don't have a good voice. The women use the familiar arguments saying, no, Goher, you must. Baba will especially like it when you do it. Baba will enjoy it more. He knows how shy you are and that you don't like to do things. Last time when you danced, how much he appreciated it. You all learn it. They argued about it until Mani finally said, you have to. See how easy it is. Now sing after me. So Goher gave in and learned the song. It was a Gujarati song for school children, meant to impart some moral lesson, and had just 2 short verses. When Baba came that evening, he sat on a mat and asked for a story. But Mani said, Goher knows a nice song. She would like to sing it for you. Goher tried to get out of it by playing dumb. What song? But the women pushed her forward. Sing! She shook her hands nervously. I'm feeling scared. I won't be able to sing it properly. Never mind, Baba said sweetly. However you know it, sing it. And the women too urged her. Come on, Goher, sing. So Goher sang in Gujarati. Have patience, patience, patience. The reward of patience will be received in God's presence. Parvardigar ni hajur. The song was supposed to be serious and beautiful, but as Goher sang, Baba repeated the words, making fun of her pronunciation and giving the words a humorous twist. For instance, Goher said Ajur instead of Hajur. What? Baba asked. Jew? Lice in God's head? And on it went. Goher was mortified. Don't you ever teach me a song again, she said to Mani. I won't sing it to Baba. He's making fun of me. And he was. But the women told her, Baba likes it. He's enjoying it. Baba told her to start again, promising, now I won't interrupt you. So Goher began, but again Baba teased her. Baba was so naughty, Mehera observed. Goher was shy to begin with, and Baba made her more shy. He made it even more difficult for her. He wanted to have some fun, and he had made a lot of fun of Goher. They also had fun another time setting off firecrackers that Meru's sister Nagu had brought to Merazad before they left. At that time, as Meru recalled, we were too busy packing and not in the mood for that sort of thing. Although fireworks were also not on Baba's list of articles allowed in the new life, the women had brought the small package to Belgaum. And when they told Baba about it, he was happy. The women lit a few, and Baba also took some to the men. This was our Diwali, Nehru said. Mani remembered that just before leaving Belgaum for Benares, Baba gave us each a gonjari, a rough blanket, which the shepherds and villagers use. To us, rough and heavy as they were, they seemed very pleasant, as they meant added warmth for our trip north, where we knew it would be getting cold. And there's quite a beautiful picture there of in Panchgani in 1938 with Mehera and Mani, and of course Meher Baba. Mani has a cute look on her face.
Do you see a sidebar in your book? There's one. There's
Yeah, it's that blanket. I'll need it. I'm going north. The blanket made of lamb's wool was also known as a kamli, and it was from such a blanket that Baba's early kamli coat was made, which he wore constantly for years. I even said I think he said it would be worship too, that the coat was so charged up. And then there's a beautiful picture of Baba with Adi. They're looking for a big shop begging outside uh, Dr. Nath's house. Man's begging. I'll let you read it, Eugene. Eugene as a man.
So that's in Benares, 25 November 1949, begging outside Dr. Nath's house with Adi Sr. Baba's watching his step, it looks like. Chapter 91, Men's Begging. At the end of October 1949, Meher Baba had sent two of the New Life companions, Sadashiv Patil and Babadas, to Benares to find accommodations for the next phase of the men's training, which was to focus on begging. With the help of two local doctors, Kara and Nath, accommodations were procured for their 2 week stay. On 12 November, Baba and the companions left Belgaum by train for Pune, the women in a first-class compartment, the men in third class. From Pune to Bombay, the women again were in first class, while Baba and 7 men occupied the servants' compartment, and the rest of the men sat in another coach. In Bombay, they changed trains for Benares, where they arrived on 15 November at 4:30 a.m. Sidebar says, at a few stops along the way, Baba got down at the station and visited the women in their compartment. For the journey, Goher put on an attractive turquoise dress with pearl buttons that had once belonged to Elizabeth. When they left Bombay, she changed and packed the dress in her suitcase. At the next station, however, a coolie, they surmised, stole the dress from the suitcase. Baba was showing us that in the new life, nothing belongs to us, Mehera concluded. It was cold and still dark when they arrived in Benares in the early morning, and the women were tired from the journey. We were made to wait and wait on the platform of the station, Mehera remembered. The waiting room was full of people. Every bench was taken. Some were snoring away while we stood in the doorway like orphans. It took so long to make arrangements for us to go to our house that our legs got tired from standing and we felt colder and colder. Unbeknownst to them, a small drama was being played out concerning their transportation. Dr. Nath and his family had arrived at the station at 4 a.m. to offer conveyance because they had heard that there were 4 delicate women in the group, and the bungalow arranged was far. Baba, however, was angry because he had told Baba Das, that no one was to be present at the station to greet them, since Baba did not want to be giving darshan and so on. This annoyance on my initial entry into Benares does not augur well for the future, Baba commented. But the Naths had acted with the best of intentions, so Baba finally agreed that he and the women could be driven to the bungalow in the doctor's car, if the doctor would accept 11 rupees as payment. The Naths, very humbly, accepted it as their good fortune. At last, Baba and the women were driven to a palatial and stately house called Nati Imli, a large iron gate with an elaborate design parted for their car. The compound, enclosed on all sides by a stone wall, had a large flower and fruit tree garden with fountains and a separate guest house, which the men companions occupied. Detached servants' quarters and a kitchen were nearby. While stopped at the front gate, the women had seen what they thought were two sentinels standing half asleep by the front staircase. We wondered what sort of house we were coming to, Meru remembered. But when we drove inside the compound, we saw that they were only statues of guards. Baba told them that their room was upstairs on the second floor, so they climbed the stairs and came to an enormous hall with a high ceiling. Chairs, tables, and sofas had been piled in one corner. The rest of the room was filled with folding chairs, like those used in a lecture hall, stacked in rows on top of each other. We all felt we couldn't possibly stay in the first room, Meru said, so we went to another one beyond, which was luckily empty, except for a cushion on the carpeted floor. A charming terrace overlooked the garden and extended around the house. The large, elongated cushion was made of Indian silk. It was like heaven to us, Mara recalled. We all gravitated to the thick bolster, Meru continued. Groggy with sleep and chilled by the cold, the four of us promptly rested our heads on it, clinging to it for warmth. Later in the morning, when we woke up and looked at our headrest in the light of day, we saw that it was not at all clean and wondered how we could have rested against it for comfort. That morning, we were very, very cold and hungry, Mara related. So, although it was still early, we said, now it's morning and we'll have nice hot tea with some bread and butter. And we were up and quickly washed and waiting. Baba came and asked whether they wanted tea, which of course they did. So he went to the men to tell them to hurry while the women unpacked their cups and saucers. When breakfast came, Mara continued, what do you think it was? We wanted just bread and butter with tea, but it was spinach, gone cold, with pepper and other spices in it, and chapatis. Such a meal in the early morning. Is this lunch? Mara asked. Goher said, this is probably the kind of breakfast they have here. That's why they've sent it. We'd better eat it and be grateful for it. This was the first time I had ever had spinach in the morning for breakfast, Mara said. Yet, odd to say, we all enjoyed it, cold and hungry as we were, and the hot tea afterwards was very welcome. The room in which they were staying was to have been Baba's, but since the other, larger one was full of furniture, they did not see how they could use it. They told Baba, and he had the men move all the furniture onto the terrace and sweep it out, while the women waited in the room where they had slept. Finally, the room was empty and the terrace was full, Mehera said. For his own reasons, Baba then instructed them. Now remember, there is plenty of furniture outside, but from today, nobody must sit on a chair, a bench, or a table. No furniture must be used. You must always sit on the carpet. A chair, however, was placed in the corner of their room, on which Baba's clothes, coat, and scarf were kept. Once, while Mehera was talking to Meru there, Mehera forgot Baba's order and sat on the chair. "You're sitting on the chair!" Meru exclaimed. They laughed about it, but they had to tell Baba. "Never mind," he said. "It was a mistake. We had to remember all these little things," Mehera observed. "Not to read or write, and now not to sit on chairs." At night, the women unrolled their beddings on the thin cotton carpet. Baba's bedding, too, was on the floor in his room. As for the men companions, Baba had ordered them to camp on the veranda of their guest house. Thus, all were living like beggars in a palace. Next to Baba's room was the bathroom, and here the women washed. Mani noted that although the house was very grand, it had marble floors and a balcony held up by carved elephant heads. It was not very convenient where the bathrooms were concerned. They washed their clothes on the terrace and hung them to dry on the clothesline. After a few days, they noticed that people driving past on camelback were high enough to see over the wall and were looking in at them. But they soon grew accustomed to the stairs. Meals were being prepared by the local family at the women's bungalow, and the strange breakfast continued. Along with tea in the morning came spinach and chapatis, Mani too recollected. We weren't used to it. We wanted toast, but it was given with such love and of such good quality. People at the house wanted to give us much more than what Baba allowed, but Baba said no. In the afternoon, it was always rice and dal. In the evening, potatoes and puris. We loved rice and dal, but when it was just that and no vegetables with it, no chutney either, we soon grew tired of it. Mehera agreed. Every day, the food was the same: rice and dal for lunch, and gravy, potatoes, and chapatis for dinner. We got so tired of rice and dal. We never had anything green to eat, except, of course, the spinach for breakfast the first few days. Their ways of cooking were different from ours, Mani continued. Everything was cooked with scent added to it. They flavored the rice as for honored guests. We weren't used to it. Even the sweets were scented. I was not well once with menstrual cramps. I was miserable, and you couldn't have tea whenever you wanted it. Goher asked, "What will you eat?" "Just plain rice," I said, "without dal." She gave it to me, but when I put it in my mouth, it tasted like incense. Here we were, on the one hand, so pampered that we weren't even cooking, and rich, good food was being sent, yet we couldn't eat it. From 24 November, the meal arrangements changed. Now Baba wanted the companions to learn how to beg for their food, since he said they would have to do so in earnest from 1 January. Baba himself inaugurated the begging phase that day when he walked to the Nath's residence. Baba and the companions were attired in white kafnis, an ochre-colored satchel hanging from their left shoulder, a brass pot in their right hand, their head uncovered and their feet bare. On Baba's satchel, Mehera had embroidered the words that were to be said while begging. Premse Bhiksha Dijiye. Give alms with love is the meaning. From 26 November, the companions, attired as above but with the addition of green turbans, began begging in pairs on the ancient streets of Benares, the most famous Hindu place of pilgrimage in India, where where there is no lack of spiritual seekers or beggars. In the meantime, while the men were out begging, the women were ordered by Baba to make puppets. As Mani recounted, "I had made some puppets long ago when we were at Merazad and had put on a puppet show for Baba. I remember Narina saying after the show, 'If sometime you need to get a job, Mani, if Baba tells you to go out and get a job, what you should do is puppetry.' We had laughed over it at the time, but when we were in Benares in the new life, in that huge palatial house, Baba said to us, 'Make puppets, because after we leave here and take to the road, you have to earn something. You can do it by giving puppet shows. Whenever we halt, people can gather and watch it. They will like it and be pleased to pay their mite for the show. That too will be a form of bhiksha.' So we started making hand puppets. I made the faces and hands out of paper and glue, while Mehera and the others made the clothes and jewelry. One little puppet was Lord Krishna. Mehera made all the jewelry and the crown for him, and Meru and Goher helped stitch the clothes. We did that much, and we were going to do more when suddenly Baba dropped the idea. Baba intended to walk from Benares to Sarnath, and the white kafnis and green turbans that the companions wore while begging in Benares, and that they would wear on the foot journey to Sarnath, had recently been acquired after much discussion. Erich had wanted ochre-colored turbans, but Adi had said that that would be too Hindu-like, and they must have a mixture of all religions. So green turbans were adopted. Baba allowed each to wear his own particular shoes for walking. So they ended up wearing turbans of Hindus, long shirts or robes, those are the kafnis, of Muslims, and since some wore tennis shoes, the shoes of Westerners. For the women, Baba was considering having them wear kafnis and turbans also, as Mani recalled. Baba had us make light blue woolen kafnis for ourselves and got pieces of gray cotton material for our turbans. Then, to demonstrate how a turban should be tied on, Baba tied the turban around my head. Later, the idea was dropped, but Mani never forgot how expertly Baba had tied that turban. So dexterously, with such flourish and expertise. Since they were traveling north to Hindu places of pilgrimage, it was then decided that the four women should dress in cotton saris with a simple woven border. They would look more respectable in saris rather than kafnis and blend in with other pilgrims. More material was bought by the men who were told the color. White would become dirty too easily while walking in the dust of the road. So the material was again of a light bluish gray, but the women thought it rather dull and unattractive. From 18 to 20 November, Baba had sent the men sightseeing in groups of four to the famous bathing ghats of Benares. After the saris were acquired, he himself took the women once on the morning of 28 November, accompanied by Sadashiv and Baidul. Mehra remembered that the night before Baba had said, "Tomorrow we go through the town to the Ganges to see the temples." He suggested we wear the saris, and we liked the idea. The next day, we walked around the town and saw different temples and sadhus with sandalwood paste on their foreheads. Many wore sandalwood necklaces and were sitting in meditation by the river. Mani remembered that we could feel the atmosphere of piety which emanated from the people there. For the devout Hindus would go down to the river to bathe in the sacred Ganges to be purified. And that's from the Tales, pages 154 and 177 to 78, 178. But Baba told them that they were not real sannyasis, renunciants. They look like it, but if there are 100, perhaps amongst them only 5 are real. At one point, Baba, who was always on the lookout for true spiritual seekers, told them to wait while he contacted a genuine must or sadhu. The women were instructed to turn away as Baba stepped to the side and made his contact. Coming home, Baba walked at a brisk pace, and the women could not keep up in the saris. When they arrived, they told Baba that the saris were not comfortable and that if they had to walk for many miles for a long stretch of time, the saris would not be practical. Baba was so thoughtful, Mara noted. We saw when walking through town that we couldn't walk as fast as he wanted in the saris. It wasn't practical. In the mornings, if we had to get up, wrap it around, it was too much of a business. Rosalie, you ready to read some more?
Yeah. Baba said, then don't wear them. Wear any clothes that you have brought in your trunk that are more suitable for you to walk in. What this turned out to be, of course, were slacks. Thus, oddly enough, while the men were walking around in long robes, the women were wearing pants. As long as we were following Baba, Mira observed, what did clothes matter? Mira had a few pairs of warm cotton slacks that Baba had given her, along with some blouses and shirts. One pair of khaki colored slacks was especially warm. I was glad Baba had given it to me when it got cold. It was thin, soft material. I had another pair made also. Sometimes it was so cold while walking that Mara wore 3 pairs of pants at once. In our life with Baba, we experienced the terrific heat of Lahore and now the bitter cold of the new life. Shoes made of soft leather had been ordered from the bazaar, and the women had their 2 pairs of sandals also, so that they could change if one pair began hurting. Mara had knitted herself a pair of socks, but none for Baba, since he said he could not walk as quickly in them while wearing sandals. Baba wore both sandals and khaki canvas shoes. If his feet were tired from the sandals, he switched to the shoes and vice versa. Despite this, Goher remembered Baba got blisters during the long walks. And there's 2 beautiful pictures of Baba and Mara.
Strange, they go back 12 years, the pictures.
Yeah, it's funny. And it shows, uh,
Oh, the little baby cows.
yeah,
Right.
Lasha and Pradhan, the calves. Yeah, with Mara Baba. That's a cute picture of Baba and Mara. Very relaxed. Relaxed. And then a beautiful picture of Mara and Khan, 1937.
Mm, that is beautiful. Wow.
Uh, yeah,
One of the best pictures I've seen.
yeah.
Mm.
Langoti life. On 1st December 1949, Meher Baba and the companions walked the 4 miles from Benares to Sarnath, where they were to stay for 11 days. The men companions walked ahead, with Baba and the women following, several hundred yards behind. Although Baba went back and forth between the 2 groups, a must was seen alongside the road. Baba embraced him and had him walk with the man to Sarnath. Dr. Nath had rented 2 bungalows there, one for Baba and the women and another for the men. Mara described their bungalow as a large stone house with a compound but it was not built to keep out the cold. It was so cold there. We felt we had been better off in Benares. A small door at the end of the compound wall allowed Goher to communicate with the men, and Baba also used it to visit their bungalow. The Mandali's house was some distance away, Meru said. Our back gate opened on the road that led there, and it was used by Baba and Goher to go there. The Mandali could also call Goher from this door by ringing a handbell if and when they needed to communicate something. The Nath and Kare families continued to send the companions meals from Benares, and the food was the same: rice and dal for lunch and potatoes and puris for dinner. We kept the leftover puris for breakfast the next morning, Meru related. But their house at Sarnath had a lush orchard with ripe tangerines. Our eyes were popping out, Mera joked. Baba gave her permission to have the fruit with meals for a change, and they enjoyed the sweet, sour taste. Mani even ate the skin. Baba, Mera, and Mani had been in Sarnath previously during the Blue Bus tours, but this time Baba took them sightseeing to a temple on the approach to the city that they had not visited before. Mera recalled that it was pink with statues of goddesses inside. Sarnath is the most sacred place of Buddhism, as it is where Gautama the Buddha preached his first sermon and initiated his first 5 disciples. On 6th December, Baba took the women to one of the largest of the many Buddhist stupas and to the main temple. Baba and the women walked around the stupa, which Mera remembered they had visited on their earlier trip. In the nearby vicinity was an ancient structure in ruins. Stone stairs led down from this structure to underground caverns, most of which were in a decrepit state. Nevertheless, Baba wished to take the women down there. First, however, he had Mani write on a slip of paper all the known avataric names: Zoroaster, Ram, Krishna, Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, Meher Baba. All of them, Mani recalled, and he put the paper in his pocket. I don't know what happened to it afterwards, but after putting it in his pocket, Baba walked in the underground passages of the rooms, the same where he later sat with the men companions. Baba took us down a deep tunnel, Mera continued. Small, separate, cave-like rooms were there in which to sit and meditate. They were on either side with a middle passage. Baba explained that this place had been in existence during Buddha's lifetime and was still standing. It was so well constructed. The temple, which they visited afterwards, was a modern structure. The people there looked like Tibetans. Mera observed, inside the temple was a lovely large Buddhist room with a high ceiling. The entrance to the room was very nice. There was a porch over which hung a bell. It was an open space outside. A relic of Buddha's was kept in the room, perhaps one of his teeth. On the wall of the large room was a life-size painting of Buddha, seated lotus fashion under the Bodhi tree. Other scenes were also depicted on the walls, such as the gathering of his disciples, Buddha giving a discourse, and so on. At one end of the room was a large, broad altar. On it was a shining statue of Buddha, perhaps in copper or brass, and many flowers. The portraits of Buddha had Oriental features, Mehera noticed, so the artist was probably Japanese. Baba walked slowly, looking at the scenes on the walls and explaining some of them. When he instructed them to bow down to the statue of Buddha before departing, adding, "As you leave the room, don't look back." Baba stayed in the room alone for several minutes more, and Mehera speculated Baba himself must have bowed to his own statue. He was very humble. Afterwards, Baba and the women took a long walk of 5 to 7 miles on the road where no one knew them. The next day, he took the men to the same underground stone caverns, but the men were clad in just langoti, loincloth. They had to sit in the bitter cold and meditate for 15 minutes upon a prayer that Baba gave them. Mehera remembered someone else who also meditated in the cold, the Mali, the gardener of the estate, whose love for God evidently quite impressed her. She recounted, "The house where we stayed in Sarnath had a large rambling garden with fruit trees. One day, Gohars started talking to the old Mali and discovered that he had lost his wife. Since that time, he had become a sadhu, but without wearing the usual ochre-colored clothes. Baba said that he was a real sadhu and did not need to wear ochre-colored clothing because inwardly he was detached from everything. He did his gardening duty, but all the time Ram's name was on his lips. In the morning, he had his bath near the well, even though it was very cold. It was so cold that we were all wearing warm clothes, and whenever we could, we sat in the sun. We were not used to such cold, but this Mali had only something around his waist and a cotton cloth around his shoulders. He came to the well, put his pail down, and drew water. Then he poured the cold water over himself and rubbed, going through the same procedure again and again. I don't know how he did it. Even looking at him made us feel colder. Then he went into his house and cooked his food, just simple rice to sustain him. Baba told Goher to find out whether he needed anything. His reply was that he had everything he needed. Again, sent by Baba, Goher repeated the question, "Do you need clothes or anything?" He said, "Thakurji gives me clothes, but you must need firewood or something." "Oh, no, even that Thakurji gives me." From this, Goher got the idea that the owner of the bungalow was named Thakurji, so generous and kind-hearted that he gave everything that was needed to this old Mali. All that he had was given to him by the landlord. As we talked it over, I wondered what actually the old caretaker possessed. Nothing except the bare sustenance for life. And then when Goher mentioned the name Thakurji again, something clicked in my mind. Thakurji is one of the many names given to Lord Krishna. In North India, Krishna is often known as Thakurji, and that fitted into the pattern of this Mali's simple life. God, Krishna, gave him everything. He lacked for nothing. Baba took the women to meet this gardener, whom Baba named Sant Mali, saintly gardener. Baba praised him, saying, "See, even in this bitter cold, he is sleeping on this broken cot in the open. He cooks for himself and has only one cooking pot. All year round, he has only boiled rice with salt. Getting up at 4 in the morning, he begins repeating Ram, Ram, Sita Ram, 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 Sita Ram." He goes to the well for a bath every morning and works in the garden the whole day. He needs nothing and he is always happy. He delights in presenting me with 5 radishes daily. He desires nothing because he is a saint. His only desire is for Thakurji, God, and for that, his Thakur, I have come to visit him today. It was another object lesson for the companions. Saint Mali was truly living the Langoti life. The next stage of the new life journey would be much further from Sarnath to a property procured outside Dehradun near Hardwar. For this part of the journey, Baba had previously ordered Padri to construct a caravan for the women in which Baba's things could also be kept. A tiny cabin on rubber-tired wheels that resembled a gypsy caravan was built. And indeed, the next phase of the training period was called Gypsy Life. Padre had the caravan fabricated at Sarosh Motor Works in Ahmednagar and brought it by rail to Sarnath, along with a bullock cart and 2 bullocks from Meherabad. One of the bulls was Raja, an English bull that the women and Baba himself had fed from a bottle as a calf, and the other was an Indian bull. Baba would be taking other animals along as well: 2 she donkeys, 2 cows, a calf, a camel named Bolaram, Lord of the Innocent, and a camel cart. Doctors Kare and Nath had provided these, while Gaya Prasad Kare offered a white horse, which Baba said should lead the procession. 2 white horses were to be brought. And Baba told Mehera, since you know about horses, you decide which one is fit to be in the new life. The next day, a small, squat-looking horse arrived, and Mehera recalled, I gave it a few pats on the neck and the flanks. Then I picked up the foreleg, as he was quiet and allowed me to do too. Then the hind leg also. I patted him on the back and said, Baba, he is a very nice, quiet horse. Baba said, all right, we'll see. Tomorrow there will be another one to inspect, and then you can choose between them. The next day, the other horse came, and it was a handsome animal, pure snowy white, rather than creamy white. The horse's eyes were pink, so Mani noted that perhaps he was an albino. He was rather tall, Mehera continued, his ears up straight, and I saw that he didn't look like a quiet horse. Only because his owner was holding him was he quiet. Again, I examined him. He let me pick up his leg, but from something about his ears and the bearing of his neck and head, I knew he was rather spirited. Mehera said, this horse too looks very nice, Baba. He allows us to touch him, so he is used to people and not shy. The horse was led away, and the women went in and talked it over. Mehera opined, I think the first horse is better. He's smaller in size, so one can control him if he's mischievous. The second horse is rather big, and the Mandali don't know how to handle horses. It can be quite a problem if a horse is spirited. That's why I like the first horse. But it's up to you, Baba, whichever you like. Baba said, no, the companions like the second horse, which is snow white and handsome. I liked it also, but it's a bit spirited, that's all. Baba said, the English barber, Don, can handle him. The horse seemed quiet enough. He allowed you to touch and handle him, so he will be all right. So we chose the second horse, and when it arrived, Duncan took charge of him and managed very beautifully. Mehera said later the horse resembled an imposing cavalry mount. A few days later, the white horse was brought again and tied to a tree outside the stable. Feed was delivered in sacks, which the men companions stored on the veranda of the stable. Since the men could not enter the women's compound, the women together carried the heavy sacks of grain inside. Baba told Mehera that she must feed the horse for a day or two before they started for Hardwar. He even gave her the proportions of oats and bran for its feed, which was to be placed in a bag and put around the horse's head. Mehera did so and related that what happened next. He was quite happy eating it. Mani and I were both in the garden watching him, and when he had finished, I was supposed to remove the bag. Finally, I went near him and took the bag off his head. He let me take it off quite nicely. Mehera gave the horse a drink of water and then said, now that it's evening, we'll put him in the stable early Mani agreed. I was happy to help Mehera with the horse, Mani recalled, though I didn't know anything about them. Mehera continued. I undid the rope and led the horse inside the stable. He let me lead him in very quietly. Then I tied him in the stable. There was a peg on the wall, which I used to tie him for the night on a longish rope so he could lie down. The horse was standing and I was sitting down, although it was very tricky. Although it was very risky. Even then, the horse didn't do anything to me. A new horse, when he sees a stranger, might react, but he didn't. I remarked, he's a nice, quiet horse. Mani related, I even sat on the ground also, straightening out the hay underneath. We were at home with this big, gentle animal. After a time, Mehera continued. I got up and said to Mani, now I need more hay that is outside and a lot of green grass for the night for the horse. Mani passed it in from outside, and I took it from her and put it in front of the horse. As soon as I put it there, the horse came quickly and started to eat. The second time I took a load from Mani and was approaching the horse, he put his ears back and started to act in an unfriendly manner. So I quickly threw down the grass. He was backing the way horses do when they are not friendly. Their necks turned and ears back. His hindquarters towards Mani. Ah, I said, he has had the grain and oats in the bag and now the grass, and he is saying he's got everything he wants. This is not a good sign. What shall we do? The Mandali had preferred him, and Baba had acquiesced, and now we couldn't exchange him for the smaller animal that we could have handled. This was a tall horse, and I was not able to handle him because I haven't the strength of a man, so I let him be. Mani observed, after being fed that first time, he had such a lovely feed, all of the best that a horse could have. After that, he seemed to realize his role, as it were, and he changed completely. The horse became a mean personality. We couldn't believe it. It turned, as it were, into a demon. That horse wouldn't let anybody go near him. He'd put his ears back and bare his teeth. None of us even dared put anything warm over his back, though it was very, very cold. Later, Baba came and asked, how is everything? Is it all right? And they went near the stable. Mani told him, Baba, we won't be safe. He's rather a mischievous horse. No, he's nice, Baba said. He let you touch him this morning. Yes, Baba, he did, said Mehera. He behaved very well at first, but he is not friendly now. No? Why not? He was quite all right when he was brought to the companions, and I also patted him. Mehera. Baba started to go near the horse, but before he could come too close, I quickly stood in front of Baba so that if the horse became mischievous, Baba would not be hurt. The horse put his ears back and started to wheel his back legs and his rump around as if he were going to kick. Baba, we better move quickly, Mehera warned. He's turning. Baba started to move, and he and Mehera ran out of the stable. Now, why is he acting like that? Baba wondered. I don't know, Mehera replied. He was very quiet at first, but now he's like this. Never mind, he'll walk with the companions. The men will manage him. Mehera said, I somehow felt, because of his ears, that he was a mischievous horse. The small horse would have been better to handle. Never mind, Baba repeated. They are all like this. Let it be. But Mehera also suggested that one of the gardeners be told to look after him, as perhaps the horse did not like women. A gardener was called to put more hay in front of him. It was cold that night, and the gardener was instructed to drape a blanket over the horse's back. The horse allowed it and behaved himself, but they were to have more trouble with him later on. A blanket was also given to someone else, as Mehera narrated. Before leaving for Hardwar, Baba wanted to give Sant Mali a gift. It so happened that at night, when we were shivering under woolen blankets, this Mali, instead of sleeping in his own warm room, slept outside in the garden despite the severe cold. We couldn't believe it. He used just an ordinary string cot, homemade and very rickety, with straw on it and a dhoti, and he covered himself with a cotton sheet. He was always up at 4 o'clock, and he chanted Ram Ram Sita Ram. Baba, hearing him, said, do you hear? He is a real sadhu. He truly loves God. The next day, Baba told Goher to approach him again and say, our friend wants to give you something. Ask for something. You must ask for something. But he said, what should I ask for? Mehru added, Baba told Goher to go again and ask once more. Surely there's something he needs. Mehera continued. Goher went back and pressed him for an answer. Mehru, to try to persuade him, Goher kept repeating her query. What do you want? Goher inquired. Ask for something. The man thought very hard. Mehera continued, and then what do you think he said? He said, I want a box of matches. It was very funny when Goher told Baba. He would have gotten anything he asked for. So Baba said, all right, call him. I want to give him a blanket. Goher called the Mali. Mani, Mehru, Goher, and I were all on the veranda. The folded blanket was in Goher's hand. When the Mali came up to us, Baba told him that he wanted to give him a present. Why only a matchbox? He asked. You must ask for something more. He said, but Sahib, I don't need anything more. Thakurji gives me everything. He had so much love for Krishna, God, that Baba himself was standing in front of him, giving him darshan. Of all the houses in Sarnath, Baba came to stay in this house. Then Baba said, I want to give you prasad, a gift from me. Take this blanket. Baba also gave the matchbox to him. But first, he gave him the nice, thick, warm blanket. The Mali was very happy that Baba, of his own accord, had given it to him. He said, this is a gift from Bhagwan, God. Mehru noted the Mali was not looking at what he received. He kept looking up at Baba, or perhaps heavenwards. Mehera concluded, you see, he meant it was God's grace that had given it to him. But he did not know that Baba was God himself. standing in front of him. It was so beautiful. Then he bowed to Baba very respectfully and lovingly, and he was very happy when he left. At last, he had received prasad from Baba, who wanted to give it to him. Here was a man who had no worldly possessions, yet he had everything because he had contentment and love for God. As Baba had commented in Balgalam, in this new life, we will be caring for the voice of the heart and be deaf to the promptings of the mind. The body will take care of itself. That will be real life, infinitely different from what it is now.
Perfect place to stop.
Yeah.
The bottom of page 455.
It's a Baba in a tent. The next page, it has Baba in a little tent in Rahuri, 1937.